All right. Welcome, everyone. This week, got a few topics I want to cover, mostly around Grok. Um, Grok, of course, is our. Um, we developed this. Let me give you a little history. So, Grok originated as we were developing Centro to. How do I put this? We noticed that all these Slack conversations are really deep and have a lot of good stuff and knowledge nuggets and to-do lists and great content within the Slack channel itself. Unfortunately, you got to scroll and read it. And one of the things about um, being in a Slack channel is if you if you're following along, you're participating, it's really easy to keep up. You don't need this tool. It's for those who are passively listening to a channel or are just being invited to a channel for the first time, who or who have never participated at all. But there's really good, solid information in those channels, like who's doing what, what are there tasks, what are some key knowledge points, and that's all in that Slack channel. So we thought there's got to be a cool way to there's got to be a way to summarize it. We looked at some apps out there, and for a long time, we didn't see a good path forward. Of course, we could develop our own sort of machine learning, natural language processing engine, consume and go through this sort of rigorous training set and adding to a custom corpus. If you don't know these AI terms, maybe I'll go on a deeper dive on this at some point. But the basics are, for a lot of machine learning, you basically need to have this collection of data that is relevant to what you're trying to produce. And oftentimes that's really hard, and it's hard to then train models against that corpus of data. And we just, it's a struggle, and it's really expensive to get that working right. So you have to hire some, data scientists and engineers, and it can be really expensive and not be fruitful. We've seen really bad results, actually. And so for a long time, we kind of just avoided this problem, waiting for something to come along. And in the summer of 2020, GPT-3 came out through OpenAI, and we were really intrigued at first with what people were coming up with. Pretty interesting use cases. I encourage you to check out the GPT-3 website. Maybe I'll link that afterwards. There's some sample use cases that are just fascinating. So one person, I think used GPT-3 to basically create a website programmatically with just like the user types in what they want and it creates it for them, and it actually writes the code. So the way I understand it, and again, I'm not a deep expert on this, and what's cool about GPT-3 is I don't need to be an expert in machine learning and AI to utilize it. Well, there's this other one that was, let's see, you could, if you're familiar with Figma is like a designer for web sort of components, and you can design a website and then pass it along to your development team. And what they did is they plugged it into Figma and said, I want a website with these attributes, and it created it in Figma. Really cool stuff. But other cool use cases have been like, I've seen this game, this like it's like a dungeon game where you type in what you want it to do, and it will come up with a response. So the basic idea with GPT-3 is there's a prompt that you give it and then a response. And how this typically works is, it's trained on trillions of bytes of data off the open internet. So it knows up until some point in time, it has anything that was on the open web, it knows about. So programming languages, people's chats in various forums, anything. It's a massive data set. And the way they use it is you give it this prompt and you say, here's something, and you kind of give it a pattern. So for us, we say, here's an example of a Slack transcription or a Slack dialogue. And then you say, now give me a summary of what was discussed. I won't give away all of our secret sauce, but that's the essentials of what's going on. There's a lot of interesting things to like build in there. For example, like how do you get the Slack messages formatted right so it understands it? Who are the users? And so we started playing with it in the fall of 2020, and we're just blown away with how good it is. And so we decided to incorporate it into our product. The idea being, okay, you've got these Slack conversations that are happening that are talking about a project or an account or how they close something or what are the details of whatever you're working on as a sales or support team or an implementation team. And then how do we take that, give a summary that's really concise but meaningful, and then have it for people to review and look at. So I just want to show, kind of why we built that and the history there. And then I'll talk about, some use cases here. So the very basics of it, and here's my checklist, like I do every week. We'll talk about how to invoke it and what the digests are. So it's nice if you're passively sort of listening to subscribe to a channel and then get a daily digest. So let me show you what this looks like if you haven't seen it before. Let's see here. Where's my workspace? Okay, so here I've got a channel. This is one of my favorite channels to work with Grok in. This is a implementation project. So this is a focused discussion. Now, I'll point out some things. I'll point out some things as I go along, but we notice that Grok seems to work really well when it's a topic that there's a conversation around. If you're hopping around in a general channel between, there's multiple threads going on or a random channel, there's like many context switching between messages, Grok doesn't work that well. Like, think about it, like, how would you summarize that, right? Like, Jason was talking about this, and then Celine was talking about that. It'd just be kind of a mess. However, we do summarize threads, so if there's a thread that's going on, we can summarize that. But if the whole channel's on a specific topic, Grok works really well there as well. So, okay, this is a team of people talking about an implementation project, right? So they close some deal. I won't let I'll record this. You can read it for yourself. We also have a sandbox if you want to try it out for yourself. The same conversation will be in there if you want to play with it. They talk about who's going to be the solution architect. They're going to talk about some go live date, and there's some anxiety around that. So there's a thread about that. They're talking about some common things that are going to be needed for this that are shared amongst many customers, such as like a connection to Salesforce, a multi-tenant environment won't work for them, and then no personally identifiable information in there. Okay, so then they talk about milestones and close dates and requirements. Okay, so let's just see what Grok does with this. We will say we have this shortcut, message shortcut. If you missed that, that's this little shortcut button down here in Slack, and you can click Grok conversation. Why did we choose Grok? I get this question a bit. Grok's a term I think that started gaining popularity in the 70s, I want to say. There was a book around this. Let's see. Let's look it up. I've heard it more and more being used. Yes, understand something intuitively or by empathy. empathize or communicate sympathetically, establish rapport. Because all the commercials, children grok things immediately. It means to like, you hear all the conversation, then you grok it and understand it and kind of have a summary of it. That's how we're using it, at least. Okay. So that's the word origin. There was a book that mentions grok for the first time, and then it kind of picked up steam as a word. All right. So now, the first thing it asks is, okay, which channel are you going to summarize? It's going to default to the channel you're in. And then we have 4 summary styles, we're calling them. We launched with this one, which is, just a general description of what's going on in the channel. And while we found this pretty interesting and useful and accurate, we also discovered that people wanted some other things for summarizing. For example, summarize based on your Slack user profile, what I do. Excuse me. Have you ever seen that? So cancel this for a sec. In your profile, the what I do field, lets other people know what you do. Some people fill this in, most don't. But if you say, I'll say I'm a customer support representative. And the idea with Grok using this field based on what you do is that we pass that in to GPT-3 and say, tell us a summary, but for this person, because the idea is that we're not convinced that everyone will want the same general summary. They only care about certain things going on in the conversation, and based on who you are, you only care about certain tidbits, right? So if I'm an engineering leader, I only care about certain aspects of the conversation versus a sales leader or a customer success rep or a technician. Based on who you are, you only care about pulling out certain things that matter to you. So it's experimental. We're giving it a shot. Maybe we'll try it here in this video. TLDR. We almost named the product this TLDR. We're just playing with it. It's a different style, so we changed the prompt slightly, and we have seen different results come out, so we'll play with that in a minute as well. And then this one's really cool. It's a task list, so pull out all the tasks being discussed and who's assigned to what, so that we know what's going on in the conversation. Okay, so again, these 3 are experimental, not promising anything yet with them, but let's just go ahead and do a default conversation. We'll hit Grok. Now, by the way, let me check my stream. I want to make sure we are recording. Okay, good. All right, so now Grok will pull up this ephemeral message, meaning it only shows to me, and it's saying here that the conversation's about the implementation of Document Force. Okay, it's a basic summary, and we went back and forth on this. How much detail do we want to provide to the user? Some people just want a very cursory glance about what's going on. I would argue this isn't probably enough detail, but for some people, maybe it is. Now, we did provide this more detail button, and that will re-look at it and then give a little more detail. Okay, VP of Sales, Tim, are discussing the implementation. All right, fair enough. However, if we look at a thread, like let's go back to this thread with all these replies. The other way to invoke Grok is through this action here, where we can summarize either a single message. If it's a really long message, you probably have seen those. Someone writes a book, and you want to summarize just that message, or the underlying thread. So the idea with summarizing a thread is you got to pick the header message, the first message in the thread, and it will give you this option. We can't invoke it from the thread, unfortunately. All right, so let's do a TLDR this time. Okay. Let's do a more detail. Didn't like that. Again, experimental. Let's try it again. I saw this work the other day. Yeah. Okay, interesting. Let's try the regular conversation. And by the way, I'm not going to read those for you. So if you want to afterwards, you can pause the recording, or again, try out the sandbox. Love your feedback on Grok. Okay, so we'll try conversation summary now. Let's do more detail. Yeah. Okay, the VP of Sales is introducing the account executive to the solution architect. He just finished a meeting, is asking to share the findings. Same one. We've noticed that sometimes we get repeats here. So, all right, so that's the general summary. Now let's see if we can pull out a task. I don't love that one. Let's try it on the main conversation. Again, one of the things that we're playing with here is like we want to have a really good first time experience. So bear with us as we kind of refine this. Love your feedback. Send me a note if you try this yourself and want to explore it and give us some advice. I'd love to hear it. So let's do a task list on the whole channel this time. Okay, interesting. So this is saying Harold is the designated project manager. Tim is the designated solution architect. If I were to scroll through this, I think that's correct. Harold is going to be the project manager. Tim is going to be the solution architect. Yep. Celine will provide a link to onboarding documentation. I think that is discussed in there. And Chris will be invited to all of the project implementation and milestone calls. Chris does ask about that. So in this case, I'm pretty happy with this. Now, what I could do, remember this is ephemeral. Maybe one want to share this with the channel. So I can click share and I can even overwrite it and say, you know, one last thing. First milestone is May 1. Hit share. And we can post our message here as a regular Slack message. So pretty nice to share with the group here. Okay, I'll delete that just in case. And I want to show one last thing. You can do a /centro if you're familiar with slash commands in Slack. /centro grok and get the same interface. So a few ways to evoke it. There's the shortcut, there's the / command, and then at a per message level. All right, so then let's say you're passively in some of these channels. One thing that we do is provide a some different settings here. So here we have a Grok summary style. So this is the default that will appear when you start a Grok conversation. Here are summary options. So when a user joins a channel, automatically give them a Grok message and summarize any channels that you join. So nice when you enter a new channel and you want to get caught up to speed really quickly. And then automatically summarize any threads that you join. If you've ever been added to a thread kind of midstream, you may want to catch up on that. It's another option to get a conversation automatically posted to you. Now here's the daily digest. So you can get up to 5 conversations summarized daily by a direct message or optionally by email. So if I click selected here, you can see I picked 3 channels, a delivery time, and then I can get an email sent to me with those summaries of those 3 channels. I think what I will do here, I just noticed this case was archived. Let me unarchive this. I was doing some testing earlier. Unarchive. Okay. So now if I do a /centro digest, it will fire at 5, but we don't want to wait around till 5. I'll see I got, you'll get a digest summary here in the app home messages for your 3 channels. Now, no new messages have posted, so there was no new updates. I should have gotten an email. Let's see if I did. Yeah, same thing. No new messages. Let me show you an example of where it did fire because of new messages to the channel. I have to go back a while. Here's some. Yeah. So here, in this case, this digest fired on January 22nd, and you got your 3 summaries here. Again, kind of nice to have this show up for your top 5 channels. You want to be aware of what's going on in those channels. We'll send you that information automatically in the email or in the app. All right, so let's see how we're doing. That's the basics. That's getting up to speed. That's doing a digest. And then what we just released this week is an archive reminder. Okay, so really, I'm gonna hop over to Salesforce first. We can do this within the Slack side, but if you're a Salesforce user, this is pretty nice. Let me show you. Okay, so we've got our Document Force account here in Salesforce, and we have a few channels set up. Now I can start a grok message. I can do a grok on the Salesforce side as well. It's only going to do that first one, the non-experimental conversation summary, and we'll hit more detail. And you don't get any of the share summaries. It's really so if you're coming into an account, you can get a summary of each of the linked channels to that account on the fly. Whoops, didn't mean to do that. So, again, just a nice way to get up to speed really quickly on a channel. Now, if I create a new channel, we'll call this Renewal 2021, and we'll invite somebody here. Now, it says a couple options. If it's been inactive for 14 days, give us a reminder. And what this means is after 14 days elapse of inactivity, then we'll get a reminder with a grok of what's been happening, and an option to either archive or leave the channel or snooze the reminder. So this is nice with that channel proliferation. If like you want to get a project team stood up, link it to Salesforce, and then eventually archive it, no problem. You'll keep your Slack instance clean because after a certain amount of time, it will remind you to either archive it or leave. And when you archive it, we still keep it linked in here in Salesforce. See that little gray kind of checkbox? It says archived. I can't click it to preview it, but I can open that link in Slack and see our archived channel. So if you ever want to have that, if you're an archivist, to keep all your Slack channels linked to Salesforce, really slick way to do this, but also to keep it clean, to sort of archive it. Let's see if I can find an archive reminder. I might have one in this other or this other workspace. Nope. Here we go. And let's see if I can find it. I think I can maybe set one up real quick. Let me see if I thought I had it set here. Sorry, a lot of Slack workspaces. Yeah, I'll show you a screenshot. Let me pull this up real quick. Okay. So here's what it looks like. I don't want to wait 14 days to show you. So here's a Grok archive reminder. It's been 14 days since there's been activity. Here's the summary, and then we get a few options. You archive it with a button click. Kind of nice, kind of speedy to do it that way. Snooze this reminder. It will prompt how many more days do you want to snooze, or just never show again for that channel. Okay, so that's the archive reminders. Pretty nice to keep your Slack instance clean. Oh, I guess I could show you how to start it from the Slack side if you're not a Salesforce user. Let's see if we can do that. If you do a / command, you get all the central actions, and here is archive reminder. So it says which channel, and it'll default to the one you're in. Then how many days? Pretty simple. So we can say 30 days, remind me. And if 30 days from now, no activity has been in here, it will then remind us to either archive, snooze, or leave. By the way, it's the clock restarts the day there's a new activity. So for example, let's say that you set it for 30 days. Tomorrow, someone posts in this channel. It will wait until 31 days from now. The clock resets every time there's activity, if that makes sense. All right, let's see how we're doing our checklist. There's some config items I want to show you in Salesforce, and then I'll show this last bit about sharing these learnings across channels in Salesforce records, something that we're just starting to play with. I think will be pretty interesting as we can continue to develop it. All right, so in Salesforce, let's show you that. Sorry, I was working on a different integration. Let's see here. Accounts, document force. Now, most of the things that we've built into the Lightning Web Component are configured in design time for the page setup. So if you're an admin, come into a setup page and you click our component, and you get all these options of how you're going to show what appears there. So we can then say remind to archive by default, and we can remind how many days by default. So we can set this to say 30. And then I'll show you quick replies as well. I don't think I've highlighted this very much, but we'll enable that. And again, you can disable Grok summaries on the Salesforce Lightning component as well. So that little button I clicked earlier can be disabled. Let me hit save. Come back. And we'll click a row here. So now we get our Grok button. And when you do this, we get our message just like I showed you before, but we also get these quick replies. Remember, we can message the Slack channel straight from the Salesforce side. And if you've ever seen those quick replies in like Gmail or LinkedIn, this is one way to do it. So we can say, nice job. We provide 4, this is kind of a silly thing. I love feedback on this. We provide 4 kind of sentiments. So like a positive one, a negative one, and a sort of neutral, and then we attempt a joke. By the way, if you ever see anything you don't like with Grok, you can always come in here. Let's say we're in some channel. We do our best to filter it out. So remember, GPT-3 is trained on the world's open internet, and there's a lot of bias and kind of negativity in the open internet, as you can imagine, and as you all have seen. And so we can filter out a lot negative sentiment and kind of tune it so that we don't surface that in our app. We don't want to, of course, but sometimes stuff slips through that seems inappropriate, or you don't like the summary. So what you can always do is come in here. We'll do a quick grok. Get your summary. Say you don't like it. You can come into this overflow menu and give us feedback. This actually fires a platform event and goes to we have a channel internally that we capture anonymous responses. That the summary was inaccurate or not. What we want to do is actually have a feedback loop automated so that we learn a little better, so we don't show that summary ever again. So we got summary accurate, inaccurate, not descriptive, or inappropriate, or some other feedback maybe you want to customize and say what we could have done better. So I encourage you, if you do install Centro and Grok, please check this out and give us feedback, because we like to see if it's on track or not. And of course, we want to see if it's not. You see, we have 3 negative ones, sort of it's inaccurate, or it wasn't descriptive enough, or it's inappropriate. We want to know about those as well. And of course, the more data you give us, the better. Okay, so back to Salesforce. So we have these quick replies. Let's see what they say. Nice job. Oops, probably should refresh this. It takes a second. By the way, these are based on the conversation. So thanks for the discount. Sorry, I can't accept that. Of course, you can override it. That might work for some. What's it say here? But it's not what we do here at Undefined. We offer an multimeter commitment. We'll only go down from there if they are not happy. Okay, I mean, that's pretty detailed. I'm not sure if that's a good reply or not. And then I guess I thought the funny joke was sick burn. So again, experimental. You can turn this off if you don't like it. It just might be a nice way to quickly reply to things in the Slack side. Okay, so that's some of the configuration on the Salesforce side. You can turn Grok on and off. Let me show you how that looks. When you create a new channel, you can set whether or not, how many days it's inactive, or whether that's checked off or not. So let's go edit the page. And let's go turn some Grok stuff off. Let's turn off the quick replies. Let's turn off the little message and hit save. Okay. No Grok, no quick replies. So configure it how you feel is necessary. All right, so that's the Salesforce side. Now let's see how we're doing. Sharing learnings across channels in Salesforce records. Okay, so this is again something that we're just getting started with. Let me go back to my implementation project. Let's go to our thread. What I've heard a few times now is people have these discussions in maybe not a specific channel, right? Maybe a general channel or a random channel where there's lots of conversations going on about lots of accounts or opportunities or projects. By the way, just so you know, we work against any object in Salesforce. But let's say that you find some tidbit of information in a thread. We want to maybe share that nugget, maybe tweak it a little bit, and then share it across multiple, not only channels, but also multiple records in Salesforce. Let's tackle the first one about sharing across multiple channels. So what I did here was create a knowledge share channel. And I've linked two accounts to it using the standard sort of Centro linkage. Let's link at another one. /Centro. Let's do an opportunity this time. Here's all our opportunities. Sure, all in one insurance plan. Link it to the channel we're in, which is the knowledge share. Let's not remind. And now, anytime any post happens in this channel, we will see it in all of these linked channels, right? Because we've linked all of these together to this knowledge share channel. Now let's go back to our, by the way, have you ever used the back button in Slack? Hops you back to the thing you were just in. Pretty sweet. Okay, so now we've got our thread here, and I'm going to try that TLDR one more time. I saw a really great one the other day. Yeah, perfect. We're going to be working with them and go live in 2 months. They need a connection to Salesforce. They will need their own separate isolated instances. Multi-tenant is a violation of terms for them. Perfect. I'm going to share this. I'm going to share it not only in the implementation project and pin it, but also my knowledge share channel. And what have I done by just linking it to the knowledge share channel? It's surfaced now on 3 different Salesforce records on the Lightning Web Component. So when you're coming to those records for the first time and you click the knowledge share row, you'll see all of our cherry-picked sort of isolated messages. Now I can say here is, this will be really important for X type of customer. We'll hit share. That, of course, posts to the channel we're in and our new knowledge share channel. And let's go to the Opti that we just linked. I'm not sure why that just started. Okay. Here's our knowledge. So we come to this opportunity. Here's our knowledge share linked channel. And here's our tidbit of information. It's just the start of something I think is going to be pretty cool, which is like, okay, we know interesting stuff is happening in Slack as far as knowledge sharing and learnings from the team. If we can, one downside with just trying to cherry pick a single message out of any given channel is that it doesn't have the context of the entire discussion. You have to read everything. So Grok really helps first summarize it, then you share that learning. You can customize the output and then link that summary to multiple channels. That will notify the group in those channels, hey, there's some other information going on in some other Slack channel that might be useful to share around. Also, linking it to Salesforce, now you kind of have an archive of important tidbits throughout your Salesforce instance. So it's not perfect. I admit, like, would I consume it that way? Maybe. You know, if I were to click the knowledge share channel and kind of just peruse it really quickly, that's better than reading every individual really detailed thread. And if we're careful about what we pick and put into that channel, that might be helpful. This could probably live as a Salesforce record, but at least you're communicating these kind of knowledge tidbits across Slack channels, even if it's just kind of like not perfect for searching. So anyways, let's see what we've covered. Let's go back to our Notion doc. We've got the Grok basics, how to start it, what the summaries do, kind of the history of how we got here, get up to speed when joining a channel, subscribing to channels and archives, how to configure it in Salesforce, and then sharing those learnings across different channels and records. There's a lot for us to continue down there. I think there's a lot of interesting things we could start to build into this. Just the start, but I'm really excited for your feedback. Hear if you think this would be useful, if you use that. Again, if you want to give us a shot, we have the Centro sandbox here, where I'll put it in the link as a reminder. You can play with it in our sandbox. If you're nervous about installing an app in your workspace, you can come into our sandbox as a guest user, play with, you'll see the same channels that I just showed here, play with it, give us feedback. message us, ask us questions, or if you're ready to start in your workspace, you can install from just search Centro on the Slack app directory, and Grok is part of Centro. One thing that we've gotten a question about is like, why don't you just build Grok as a separate product? And truth be told, we may, but right now we see a lot of value of that linkage between your system of record, which is Salesforce in this case, our first integration. So we may integrate to other CRMs down the line, and the chat happening in Slack. And if you recall, maybe I'll do another deep dive on this. We connect email and SMS too. So you're getting the external communication with the internal communication with your system of record all in one spot. If you can summarize those channels and do interesting kind of deep dives on the learnings and share those learnings and have them actionable. That's why I love the task list Grok summary style. I think there's some really important, cool stuff coming down the road there. So just to give you an idea of where we're headed, I think that's it for today. If you have any questions, shoot me a line, Ryan@centro.rocks. And